Alright guys, we're going to review solving one-step equations. I know a lot of you guys already have done this, but just in case you need to review, also if you can't remember or you lost the note for some reason, they're right here. We're going to start with number one. I asked everybody to, first step is to start where the variable is, or identify where the variable is at. So I'm just going to put start where the variable is at. So what I mean by that is split the equation into between the left side and the right side of the equal sign. So our equal sign is the one that was split into. So on the left side is where I have my variable. So that's where I'm going to start. In order for you not to get confused, maybe you can cover the right side since we're starting on the left side and that's where the variable is at. Step number two is to do the inverse operation of whatever is going on. So I'm adding a 5. The inverse operation is the opposite, which would be to subtract the 5. Step number two, do the inverse operation, or the opposite. So the opposite of adding a 5, again, cover it if it confuses you, is to subtract a 5. Why? Because 5 minus 5 will give me a 0, and that will cancel out to leave or isolate the variable by itself, right? Okay, now very important, if I subtract a 5 on the left, I have to subtract a 5 on the right. Same procedure. Subtraction, subtraction. Okay? Bring down the p, bring down your equal sign, and then we combine like terms, or we are subtracting negative 5, so excuse me, subtracting a 5 from a negative 10, or if you follow the little song I sing to you guys in class, same signs, add and keep, different signs, subtract, keep the sign of the larger one, and that'll be exact. So since these are the same, we are going to add them and keep the signs. So there is our answer. To check, you're going to substitute the answer in place of the variable. Okay. So in place of the variable in the equation to the original, we're going to go back, and instead of putting p, here, p, we're going to plug in the answer that we got. So negative 15, and then write the rest of the equation. Plus 5 equals negative 10. Then we're going to only do the side that is not one number, the one that needs to be combined. And then we sing our little song, same signs, add and keep, different signs, subtract, keep the sign of the larger one, and that will be exact. So they're different signs because one is negative, one is positive. Subtract them gives us a 10, and keep the sign of the larger one. 15 is larger than 5, and it's negative. If this is true, negative 10 does equal 10, which it does, then you did the correct steps, and this is the correct answer. P equals negative 15. Number 2, our variable's on the right side, so we're going to cover the left, if that helps, and we're going to identify what's happening here. We're subtracting a 2.6. Okay? They can also write this as adding a negative 2.6. So to get rid of this, or to zero it out, we have to do the opposite. I'm going to add a 2.6. We do the same thing on the other side, add a 2.6. Whatever I do to one side, I have to keep it equal and do it on the other side. So that's going to give me a 0. Negative 6 plus 2.6, excuse me, negative 2.6 plus 2.6 gives me 0. Bring down the r, bring down your equal sign, and then do the math on the left side. Since we're adding 2.6 to a negative 7.5, we have to subtract, or take the difference of the numbers. So 6 minus 5 is 1, 2 minus 3, excuse me, 5 minus 6, darn. We can't subtract them, so we borrow 1, 15 minus 6 is 9. That leaves me with a 6 here. 6 minus 2 is 4. So you take the difference. Also, guys, just in case you want to to double check, you can use negative signs in your cell phone and check it in the calculator. And then you keep the sign of the larger one. 7.5 is bigger and it's negative, so that's our answer. Right. To check your answer, you substitute it in place of r in the original equation. So negative 7.5 equals r, and I substitute our answer, negative 4.9. Copy the rest of the equation, minus 2.6. Then we check it. We do the math on the right side, so we only have one number. We have negative 4.9 minus 2.6, so same signs, add and keep. So we're going to add 15, carry 1, 2 plus 4 is 6, but we carried a 1, so it's 7, and then they're both negative, so we keep the sign. And we do get the same thing, so that is correct. So our answer is correct. If you're getting confused with negatives, again, you can use the calculator on your cell phone, but think negative 4.9 minus 2.6. If I owe $4.9 and then they take away $2.6 from me, then I'm down more money, right, than I have. Okay, so I already owe, and then they take away. So that's why the negative is getting bigger, because we're taking away from a negative. All right, number 3 and number 4, you have parentheses. You cannot solve when you have parentheses. So I want you to treat this as multiplication. So I want you to put a little 1 here. That way I can see that if I add a negative number, well, a positive sign times a negative sign will give me a negative 34. Once I multiply these, then I can write the sign, and now I can see that it's a subtraction, and it's a lot easier. I don't have to think of it as adding a negative. Okay? Now I can ignore that. I can start here. Split your equation, and our variables on the left side, so that's where we're going to start, on the left. We're subtracting a 4. We do the inverse operation, which will be adding a 34. Excuse me, 34. That'll give me 0. But if I add a 34 on the left, I add a 34 on the right. Since they're different signs, we have to subtract them or take the difference. So that will be 13. And then the bigger sign is positive, so we leave it positive. Bring down your m, and there's your answer. You can check it by going back to the original equation. Actually, let's go to this one so we don't have to deal with parentheses. And plug it in place of m, so 13 minus 34 equals negative 21. Okay, so these are different signs, so we take the difference. The difference between 34 and 13 is 21, and then keep the sign of the larger one, which is negative. Okay, so we know we've done it correct. On number 4, since we have parentheses and a sign outside of it and a sign inside, go ahead and put a 1 again, and now I have a negative 1 times a negative 8, which will give me a positive 8. So no more parentheses once I multiply that in. Then we look and we see our variables on the left, so that's where we're going to start. Make your wall. And the inverse operation, the opposite would be to subtract an 8. So minus 8, minus 8. When I do to one side, I have to keep it equal, because there's an equal sign, so I have to do the same thing on the right side. Same signs, add and keep. So add them and keep the sign. Since they have the same sign, if I'm in debt and I get more in debt, it just increases my debt, right? Alright, number 5. Number 5 and number 6 are also one-step equation, meaning I'm only going to do one step: add, subtract, divide, multiply. But since these are touching my variable, then this is multiplication. So I still do my wall. I still start on the left side because that's where my variable is. But I see that the negative 5 is touching the t. That means it's multiplication. Well, the opposite of multiply is to divide. So that's our inverse operation, to divide by negative 5. We don't change it to a positive because the inverse operation is already division. And when I divide and multiply, you keep the exact same number with the exact same sign. Watch out for that on your homework. Negative 5 divided by negative 5 is positive 1. And 1 times t is just t. So give me a positive. Then 60 divided by a negative 5. A negative If they're the opposite signs, guys, when you divide or multiply, then it's always going to be negative. 60 divided by 5 is 12. Check your answer. Start at the original equation, negative 5, and since it's multiplication, I like to use parentheses, equals 60. That was our original equation, but we had a t. So we're going to substitute our answer for t, negative 12. Then we multiply, right, because there's nothing between them, so they're touching, so it's multiplication. Negative 5 times negative 12, if the signs are the same, then the outcome is always positive. Okay? So the little song we sing is only for adding or subtracting, okay? The song does not apply for multiplying or dividing. So it should be easy. If they're different, always negative. If they're the same, always positive. Number 6, make your little wall. Variables on the left side, so cover the right. 2.3 is touching n, that means it's multiplying, so the inverse operation is going to be division. These cancel out to leave my variable by itself or isolated, the n, or give me a 1. 1 times n will still be n. And then 115 divided by 2.3 is 50. For the sake of time, I'm going to skip the checking on number 6, but please do so on your homework. Alright, number 7. There it is. I'm not going to read the whole thing or anything, so identify your unknown. It's always in the question. That's my variable. The first test here, I don't know, so it is my variable. So it is the unknown. Remember, a variable always represents a number that is unknown. Then I go back to the problem, and it says he scored at 86 on the second, and 18 points higher. This was 18 points higher than the first. So if f represents my variable, then I would have to add 18 points, so it will equal 86. Here's my equation. Split it in two. Variables on the left side, I'm adding an 18, the opposite, subtracting an 18. I do to one side, I do to the other. 8, 7, 1, 68. Right, I made it a little crooked, bring down the f equals 68. And we can always check it. We can check it by substituting in place of f. So 68 plus 18 equals 86. Then you do the math on the left side to see if it'll equal 86. So 8 plus 6, 16, carry 1, plus 6 plus 1 is 8. Okay, so then it's correct, so 68 is our answer. Please box your answers. Number 8. Number 8, you identify the variable. So it's on the left side. You see what's happening between the variable and the number. There's a line between them, so that's division. So we're going to do the inverse operation, or the opposite, which is multiplication. So get rid of that 8 because it's on my way. Put a little dot that represents multiplication, and we're multiplying by the exact same number, negative 4. If I multiply on one side, I have to multiply on the other by negative 4. Well, if I multiply by a negative 4 and I divide by a negative 4, they will cancel out to give me a 1. 1 times r is just r. 15 times negative 4 is negative 60. Okay. We can always check our answer by substituting our answer back into the equation, but in place of r. So I had r, so negative 60 over negative 4 equals 15. Negative 60 divided by negative 4, 4 goes into 6 one time, with 2 left over, then 2 and 0 give me a 20, 4 goes into 25 times. Negative divided by negative is a positive. Remember, they're always the same. When you're dividing or multiplying, it's always going to be positive. Alright, on number 9, if you have a fraction, the inverse operation is always to multiply by the reciprocal. I hope I spelled it right. So we look at our fraction here, and our fraction is on the same side as our variable, so that's what we're going to have to get rid of first. So the reciprocal of 2 over 3 is going to be 3 over 2. So in order to cancel this out, here, cross out that 9, put a little dot because it's multiplying, right? That's the key thing there. We're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So multiply by 3 over 2. The reciprocal of 2 over 3 is 3 over 2. But if I multiply on one side, I have to also multiply on the other by the exact same fraction. 3 times 2 is 6. 2 times 3 is 6. So I would end up with a 6 on the top and a 6 on the bottom. Well, that would be 6 divided by 6 is 1. So 1 times b is just b. So when you multiply by the inverse, it always equals to 1. Okay? So 1 times b is b. Always, always, always when you multiply inverses of fractions, excuse me. If you're going to multiply whole numbers and fractions, go ahead and put a little 1 under the whole number, and then you can multiply across. 12 times 3 is 36. 1 times 2 is 2. And then you can simplify the fraction. b equals 18. 36 divided by 2 is 18. Okay, you can check your answer. Substitute in place of b. So 2/3 in place of b, I'm going to substitute 18 equals 12. Again, to check it, multiply fractions, you have to add a little 1 underneath and multiply across. Running into this other one, so 8 times 2 is 16, carry 1 times 2. Alright, so 36, and then 3 times 1 is 3. Okay, so 36 divided by 3 is 12. So it is correct. So our answer is 8. Alright, last one. Our unknown here is number of students in the assembly. So that is our unknown, the number of students, unknown. So I'm going to use S to represent our number of students. And then if you go back and read it, it says you have so many number of students that you don't know in the assembly, and they were divided into 4 equal groups, they're divided by 4, and they equaled, or they were 63 students in each group. So there's my equation, then we solve it, split it in 2, focus where the variable is at on the left side, and identify what's happening, and do the inverse. So we're dividing by 4, the opposite is to multiply by 4. If I do it to one side, I do it to the other, multiply by 4. 4 times 3 is 12, carry the 1, 4 times 6 is 24, plus 1, 25. Alright, you can always check it. I plug it in your answer in place of the variable, so 252 divided by 4. And then 4 goes into 25 6 times. We have 1 left over, and 1, bring down the 1 will give me, and 2 will give me 12. 4 goes into 12 3 times. So it works. Or you can always use the calculator on the phone. Alright guys, hope this helps. Remember that if you're going to be using your notes, you get stuck, on the other side is the assignment. So let's say you don't remember how to do number 9 on the homework. So you turn it around and you look at number 9 on the notes, in the notes. Alright, if you have any more questions that are not answered in your notes, then you can send me a message on your mind.